Hello and welcome to the Randall Road at I-90 virtual public meeting hosted by the Kane County Division of Transportation. Kane County appreciates your interest and involvement in the project. This virtual public meeting is being held in place of an in-person meeting due to the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. Our team will present all information that would have been presented at an in-person meeting, and you will have the opportunity to provide input on the project and proposed improvement concepts. Now I'd like to introduce the consultant team project manager, Matt Papernick from Burns & McDonnell.
Thank you, Mike, for the welcome and the introduction. As he indicated, my name is Matt Papernick. I serve as the Burns & McDonnell team project manager. We have a very informative and full 90 minutes of information to provide you about the project. Okay, before I get started, I want to introduce the rest of the project team. With me here in the office this evening is Katie Leska, the project engineer, Emma Kay from our structural design team, Ryan Guerreri and Cindy Panagitopoulos from the environmental engineering side. Also on the call, Paul Plotis and Tim Cope from Burns & McDonnell's traffic engineering group. Last but certainly not least is our public involvement team of Chelsea Smith and Talia Clark. Now, as to the agenda today, you will hear from me about the progress the team's made since we held our first public meeting almost a year to the date ago. I'll explain the multiple improvement concepts that are under consideration and how those concepts have been evaluated. You will then have the opportunity to talk to and ask questions of subject matter experts in a series of breakout sessions designed to go into more detail about key project disciplines, including traffic operations, noise and other environmental considerations, and designs, structures, and safety. Once those 3 breakout sessions are complete, everyone will come back to the larger group and we'll conclude the meeting. The purpose of the Randall Road at I-90 Corridor Improvement Project, which we call Randall over 90, is to evaluate potential improvements to Randall Road between Big Timber Road on the south and Illinois Route 72 on the north, with a particular focus on the interchange with I-90, the Jane Addams Memorial Tollway. The purpose of this public meeting is to share the most current project information and to gather your input on the improvement concepts that KDOT's evaluating. This project started in fall of 2019. And since that time, the project team has collected data, held an open house, and developed the project's purpose and need statement. We've also developed and are now evaluating a wide variety of potential improvement concepts. We're currently in that concept evaluation phase. We're developing a final report to publish and share later this year. The key content of the final report will be a list of alternatives to be carried forward. This is an official term comprising a selection of our design concepts, which were found to be most successful at addressing the many needs of the corridor. Those alternatives will be whittled down to a single preferred alternative in future phases of design. So let's go into a little bit of detail on the progress KDOT and the project team has made since that previous public meeting a year ago. Since February 2020, the project team has received and analyzed approximately 250 survey responses and comments from stakeholders and the public, including those of you who live in the project area. Armed with your feedback and with the data collected in those early stages of the project, we then developed and shared this purpose and needs statement. Last fall, KDOT transitioned the project to what is referred to as a planning and environmental linkages strategy. That's a variation on the federal design process, which I'll explain in more detail later in the presentation. After we finished collecting our data and input and then reestablishing the project as a PEL, we began designing concepts which had the potential to identify those issues that we found, including those we learned through our conversations with you. We also developed criteria for evaluating those options, and we began evaluating our concepts. In order to fully evaluate them, we would like your input and to better understand which concepts you think are best. Since input from you on this project is important, I would like to quickly summarize the input we've already received, especially during our February 2020 public meeting. We hosted 74 people at that meeting. KDOT received a total of 249 survey responses and comments, both in person and online, on a wide range of issues concerning the corridor. 71% of respondents said they had no concerns about the Randall Road I-90 corridor and said that improvements were needed now. Another 26% said they had no immediate concerns, but did say that improvements could be necessary in the future. 50% of the survey respondents ranked traffic congestion as their #1 priority. The top priority for most people completing our survey was the need to do something to reduce long travel times and/or traffic congestion. A second priority of both the public and of community stakeholders, it was in dealing with future growth. Pre-COVID, traffic demand through the corridor was anticipated to increase by 30% or more over the next 30 years. While it's too early to say for sure what the pandemic's long-term effects will be, even a fraction of that growth will overwhelm the corridor. Additionally, new logistics-related development in the business parks west of Randall are likely to add hundreds or even thousands of daily trips to the immediate area. Autonomous vehicles will not impact capacity in any meaningful way for the foreseeable future. Thus, capacity improvements are very possibly the only way we have of dealing with this issue. Other top priorities for respondents include improving traffic safety, minimizing project cost, maintaining traffic flow during construction, and minimizing impacts to commercial and residential access. Now let's dive in a little more to the purpose and needs statement which we created for this project. A purpose and needs statement is developed to define the transportation problem and outline goals and objectives. It sets the stage for consideration of reasonable concepts for improvements and provides justification for the use of public funds. It's basically a vision statement for what we're trying to achieve. The FHWA requires a properly developed purpose and needs statement if federal funds are to be used for a project. For that reason, a wide variety of information, including public review and input, goes into developing it. Our project's purpose and needs statement was presented for public comment in February 2020 after our last public meeting and after our data collection process was complete. You can view that entire statement on the homepage of our project website. Just to reiterate what's in that statement, the purpose of this project is to develop one or more infrastructure concepts which enhances mobility, improves safety, supports current and future travel demand, and addresses economic and quality of life impacts throughout the corridor. The need for this project is to relieve congestion, improve travel times, and provide for expected traffic growth. This project is also needed to address deficiencies in the existing roadway, bridge, and multimodal infrastructure. Now, last fall, as I mentioned, KDOT transitioned from a feasibility study to what is called a planning and environmental linkages, or PEL strategy. The goal of a PEL is to develop a more seamless and informed decision-making process that reduces duplication of effort and promotes environmental stewardship. It also enhances community involvement and streamlines the delivery of the project. A PEL strategy provides us with a strong base of information for the environmental review process, which makes it easier for us to identify potential concerns early on and address them more effectively. By making this transition now, KDOT can ultimately lower the cost of the project and shorten the timeline for both project development and environmental review. Now, the design process had a specific starting point. We didn't want to start creating any designs until we'd finished the data collection process, which included the gathering of public input, and until we understood the corridor as best as we possibly could. It's important to have that basis of knowledge before we actually start thinking, what would we want to do? Now, we knew from the data collection process that there were specific things we should be trying to achieve. We knew, for example, that a lot of the traffic signals, that the frequency of the signals is what does a lot to cause the congestion and backups, which in turn is a safety issue because it causes rear end crashes. Accordingly, we focused on that issue in trying to find ways to address the purpose and needs statement and make the project more effective. A thorough explanation of our approach to intersection simplification is available in our video, which is currently online, on concept criteria. Now let's go over how our team developed the concepts that you'll see today. First, the project area was divided into 3 segments. Those 3 segments are the south end from Big Timber Road to Westfield, the I-90 interchange area, which is basically from Westfield through the interchange north to Point Boulevard, and the third segment from Point Boulevard north to Carrington Drive. The intersection of Big Timber Road and the intersection with Illinois 72 are part of separate improvement projects currently being pursued by KDOT. Over 20 distinct improvement concepts were initially developed for those 3 segments. Each of the improvement concepts were screened through a fatal flaws analysis. Fatal flaws are just that, things that are so severe or so impactful that anything that causes them is basically a non-starter. Residential displacements are a fatal flaw, exorbitant cost, major maintenance concerns, very, very poor traffic operations were defined as fatal flaws for our analysis. As a result of that screening, the design team removed 7 concepts from consideration. More information about concepts that were eliminated through fatal flaw analysis, if you're curious, are available on the project website. Next, we created 12 weighted evaluation categories. Again, you can find a detailed explanation of what those evaluation criteria are in a separate video posted on the randallover90.com website under the heading Resources. Weights were assigned to each criterion based on the priorities that they met within the purpose and needs statement. All categories for each concept were totaled for a final score. That score will be a key determination in whether a concept is retained or discarded at the conclusion of the Pell process. The scores for concepts within each segment are only compared to others within that segment. So let's get into the improvements that we're actually considering. We'll start on the south end of the corridor, comprising the segment from Big Timber Road to Westfield Drive. Let's start with what you can see out to the south end today. The portion of existing Randall Road that you see on screen generally consists of 2 northbound and southbound through lanes in each direction, with a 3rd lane northbound between Capitol and Elft. This segment has several existing issues, including closely spaced traffic signals, congestion, and high left turn volumes, especially at Elft, which conflict with through traffic. Traffic flow is further complicated by emergency vehicles arriving at Advocate Sherman Hospital, which tend to preempt the traffic signal timing and confuse things further. The average daily traffic, or ADT volume, for this segment is an estimated 47,000 vehicles per day in 2019, which is one of the heaviest, if not the heaviest, traffic volume served by any Kane County highway. Early indications are that COVID's impact on traffic volumes here and elsewhere in the corridor has been relatively limited. Now, one concept that KDOT must consider per federal guidelines is what they call the no-build concept. This means that no improvements would be made. It is rare, but not unheard of, for the no-build concept to be selected for a project. But for that to happen, the no-build concept would only be selected if all of the other possible improvements fail to address the purpose and needs statement. In addition to the no-build, 3 improvement concepts survived the fatal flaw screening process and are still under consideration for the south end segment. Those 3 are 6-lane cross-section, 3-leg intersection modifications, and an unusual concept at Elft Lane called an echelon intersection. I should point out that the concepts which failed the fatal flaws analysis are also relatively unusual. Now, this narration over the next 3 steps is only going to provide you with a high-level summary of each concept. Some features of each might not be very clear in the slide, though I'll take my time to go through them. Now, all of these concepts can be viewed individually and in greater detail by downloading the exhibits from the project website, and I encourage you to do so. The first concept we're going to look at is a 6-lane cross-section. It is the most straightforward of the different concepts under consideration. KDOT would simply add a third lane in each direction to the roadway between Big Timber and Capitol Street, and also between Alft and Westfield. Turn lanes would be added, and traffic signals would be modified as needed. Using the scoring criteria we've discussed previously, this concept was given an overall relatively low score of 43. As our traffic modeling suggests, it will not provide much additional benefit to the corridor. While additional lanes will improve capacity, they don't reduce the number of traffic signals, they don't reduce the number of other hazards currently contributing to congestion or crashes, which is why its score was relatively low. Some other concerns that we identified include the fact that the wider pavement will require long crosswalks. It is an intent of the project that we do what we can to enhance multimodal use. A wider pavement lessens the likelihood that it's going to provide an attractive facility for multimodal use. There's also the fact that utility relocations will be required everywhere pavement is widened. It doesn't provide any improvement to access along businesses. It widens the road, but doesn't improve the efficiency of those access points, of those side streets, which access the businesses or Advocate Sherman Hospital. Additionally, the additional pavement will probably result in the need for additional drainage improvements. Benefits of this concept include that it does provide some benefit in average traffic delay times. Its constructability is pretty good. Lanes can be reduced and shifted without a lot of impact to existing traffic. That allows for better construction and better traffic flow while the work's underway. This concept has minimal environmental concerns. Finally, we can widen the road and retain the pavement that we have, which will lower construction costs. Second concept I'd like to go over with you is the three-leg intersection modifications. This modification would revise the intersections at Alft Lane and at Fox Lane by reconfiguring the traffic signals at both intersections. Under the best performing version of this concept, the San Filippo plant access would be via a U-turn at Fox Lane. Northbound left turns onto Alft would now use a new frontage road to cross Randall Road and make a right turn onto Alft from the north. So they drive northbound past the intersection, do a U-turn, and then make a right turn onto Alft. As a result of doing this, the traffic signal at Alft would be greatly simplified. It would provide some additional inconvenience for the hundreds of vehicles which make that turn, but with benefit to the tens of thousands of vehicles that do not. This concept provides a significant benefit to the through movements, which are the focus of our study, by consolidating that turning traffic. Now, our modeling has determined that the two-phase signals at Alft and at the frontage road will operate much more efficiently than the one four-phase signal currently at Alft. The improved traffic flow will improve access to surrounding businesses and the hospital, and especially for traffic turning from Alft onto Randall, as opposed to Randall onto Alft. But it does require significant right-of-way, and it does require an additional two-phase traffic signal. For more information on how that two-phase signal benefits us, I would encourage you to drop in on the traffic breakout session after I'm done speaking. Now, other benefits of this concept include the fact that it provides a protected area for pedestrians to get across Randall. It enhances safety by reducing those queues which are currently forming at Alft. It has minimal environmental concerns. It allows us to retain most, if not all, of the existing pavement. And finally, access to Advocate Sherman Hospital is improved with these improvements in two-phase signals. Some concerns include the fact that we have numerous utility impacts, that we do have an issue with indirect access to the San Filippo plant, which will require some careful design. And finally, the amount of additional pavement we're adding will require additional drainage detention, which must be designed. The third improvement concept I'd like to cover for the south end is what we call an echelon intersection. It has a number of other names, including an over-under, if you're interested in Googling it. We're calling it an echelon. And what an echelon intersection does is it grade separates two directions of travel. In our particular application, northbound Randall Road and eastbound Elft Lane will be raised over the existing intersection of Elft and Randall, making it essentially a double-decker intersection. Access to westbound Elft will be via a new extension of Fox Lane to the west. This concept provides a significant improvement along Randall Road at the Elft Lane intersection. The interchange configuration, though, presents a lot of concerns. The foremost of those is that construction staging will be very complicated and disruptive in the short term. Also, the intricate bridge structure is going to create a high construction cost. Other concerns that we have about this concept include the utility relocations, the fact that we've got an unsignalized entrance from the San Filippo plant, which we'll need to design carefully, and the fact that additional pavement and especially drainage for the bridge structure will result in some relatively complicated drainage infrastructure as well. Now, among the many benefits of an echelon is dramatic improvements in safety and traffic flow at Randall and Elft. The movement from Elft on to northbound Randall is one of the biggest intersection movements that we have in the entire corridor. So doing something to specifically address it and specifically improve it means that this scores very highly from that traffic operations and business access standpoint. It makes much better access for Advocate Sherman by simplifying the ground level intersection between southbound Randall and Elft. The grade separation improves the opportunity for multimodal crossing because essentially pedestrians only have to cross half of Randall to get across it. And the environmental concerns are relatively minor. As stated earlier in the presentation, all of our improvement concepts are compared to other concepts in their segment. The three-leg intersection concept scored the highest. Next was the echelon, followed by the six-lane cross section. And the no-build concept ranked last with an overall score of 44. Now, it's important to note that these scores do not include public input, which you will be invited to provide via our online survey. This concludes the presentation of our South End improvement concepts. You'll have the opportunity in the survey to make specific comments about what you've learned about the South End concepts, and I encourage you to do so. Let's move on to the next section. We're now looking at improvements under consideration for the interchange itself. The intersection with Point Boulevard, because of its close proximity to the westbound I-90 ramp intersection, is considered by the project team to be part of the interchange segment. So let's talk about what we have here today. The ramp, it's a diamond configuration. The westbound exit ramp has 4 lanes, while the eastbound features 3. Both entrance ramps have 2 lanes, which merge down to 1 before they rejoin I-90. The average daily traffic, or ADT, for the ramps are 4,500 and 19,000 respectively. This is a very high volume for the tollway system. The ADT for the eastbound entrance ramp is 19,200. 4,500 vehicles use the eastbound exit ramp in the southwest quadrant of the intersection. Randall Road over I-90 carries 51,000 vehicles per day, the highest ADT I know of on any King County highway. The existing issues for the interchange include consistent congestion, not just during peak travel times. Backups for the left turn movements from southbound Randall to eastbound I-90 and from northbound Randall onto westbound I-90 regularly extend into through lanes, which causes a higher risk of collisions. There's simply not enough space, not enough pavement to handle all the vehicles who want to make these left turns. Even the westbound exit to I-90 can back up onto the tollway main line during peak periods, especially in the afternoon. This congestion in turn contributes to a very high number of crashes. In fact, about half the crashes in the corridor were attributed to these 3 intersections you see on screen. That's over 350 crashes in 5 years. The Randall Road Bridge over I-90 is a hodgepodge of multiple widenings, and portions of it are nearing the end of their design life. In our approach to design issues at the intersection, we knew that there needed to be a different way of processing those left turn movements. Each left turn you see onto or off of Randall Road is impacting the passage through traffic. So we knew we needed to look for ways to reduce those conflicting movements. Finally, we knew it was necessary to have a transformative approach. This is the preeminent pinch point in this region's roadway network. So any improvements we make are only going to draw more traffic. We know people are now bypassing the area to avoid this intersection. So the design team was encouraged to think big. For the I-90 interchange area, there are currently 9 concepts being evaluated in addition to the no build. They include the following: a retention of the Diamond interchange, a partial cloverleaf or parklow, a single point urban interchange like what we've recently built at Barrington Road, a ramp flyover, a displaced left diamond, a hamburger, an echelon, and a concept which involves express lanes and roundabouts. This narration will simply provide you again with a high-level summary. Download the exhibits and you'll be able to look at them in much closer detail. We'll start with the Diamond interchange concept. Next best thing or next most basic thing to the no build, which as noted previously is always considered until the very end of the study. This concept maintains the existing I-90 interchange configuration and simply adds a through lane to both northbound and southbound Randall Road. It includes full reconstruction of the existing Randall Road Bridge. The Diamond interchange concept has one of the lower scores of our interchange build concepts. Now you'll note that the number is higher than some of the areas in the south end. That's because what we're evaluating is different. You shouldn't compare the numbers for the interchange concepts to the numbers on the south end. Only consider the numbers within the interchange concepts themselves. Now, the additional capacity which is provided from those new through lanes doesn't do a heck of a lot to address those heavy turning movements to and from I-90. Other issues we have with this concept include the retention of that current interchange geometry, which doesn't help with access to businesses or to Sherman Hospital. It doesn't address the safety concerns, and those ramp intersections remain difficult for pedestrians. A few of the benefits which we see, which are a moderate improvement in traffic operations, the need for no additional right-of-way, lesser impacts to Randall Road and to the tollway during construction, lack of environmental concerns, the fact that we have adequate drainage available, and the fact that there's a possibility that retention of existing pavement results in a lower construction cost. However, as noted, it doesn't provide that transformative approach, which is why its score is relatively low. The next concept I'd like to discuss is the parklow. This involves constructing a loop ramp which carries traffic from southbound Randall directly to eastbound I-90. This greatly simplifies the intersection with the rest of the eastbound I-90 ramps, which creates a two-phase traffic signal at that intersection with the eastbound ramps. The parklow does require reconstruction of the eastbound exit ramp and of the toll plaza currently in place. The concept does eliminate one left turn, which, as we've noted previously, is our biggest problem in this segment. However, it doesn't address issues at Point Boulevard or at the westbound ramp intersection. As a result, it turns out that it doesn't provide significant improvements to the corridor. Some benefits do include the fact that it does decrease queuing at the eastbound I-90 intersection. As noted, the southbound Randall to eastbound 90 left turn is one that frequently backs up in the through lanes. The construction of the parklow ramp will dramatically reduce traffic at that intersection, which should have an effect on crash reduction. The environmental concerns are minimal. It's a little bit easier to construct a multi-use path with this concept because of the way it reconfigures those left turns. And it has minimal drainage impacts. There is some disruption to the existing ground in the southwest quadrant, but it doesn't disturb those basins which provide detention storage. The next concept is the single point urban interchange. Again, this is similar to what was recently completed at I-90 in Barrington. This improves the intersection spacing by consolidating the ramp intersections into a single location. It improves the intersection spacing at a key point in the corridor, and it does address both the eastbound and the westbound I-90 intersections. So it does have an improvement from that standpoint. However, it has substantial issues with constructability and staging and cost. Could we go back to that slide just for a moment, please? You'll notice that the bridge, which carries the intersection over I-90, is much larger than the other structures you'll see. That type of a bridge is very complicated to build and very difficult to stage. Thank you. Some benefits include, as noted, considerable traffic improvement. It does consolidate those intersections and consolidate those left turns, which does have an effect on business access and Sherman Hospital access. It should have an effect on crashes, and it has limited drainage impact, although there is drainage infrastructure for the bridge, which must be considered. Now, the other concerns for this concept are utility relocation, that complicated staging that I referred to, and substantial difficulty with pedestrian crossing. Yeah, SPUI is many things, but it doesn't. It takes effort to make it a friendly pedestrian experience. It can be done, but it's complicated. It's a very large, very complex structure, which also makes it a challenge to maintain from the county and tollway perspective. The flyover concept kind of takes the Parklow and moves it over I-90. What this does is constructs a loop ramp from southbound Randall to eastbound I-90. It's similar to the Parklow, but what it does is it takes traffic off of Randall Road before the westbound ramp intersection. So traffic bound for eastbound I-90 does not interfere with traffic exiting westbound I-90. This turns out to have a significant improvement in the capacity of both of those movements. Access to both directions of I-90 will exit southbound Randall Road at the same location just south of Point Boulevard. This concept received a very high score. It has a dramatic improvement in peak period traffic operations, which result from the removal of those left turns, and improves the efficiency of the I-90 ramps by providing more green time for the westbound exit. It's one of the more costly because of the new bridge and the long ramp. It has many benefits in addition to those I've mentioned. It increases Randall Road capacity. It greatly reduces impacts to traffic and improves safety. It has limited environmental concerns and minimal drainage impacts. It also allows for relatively easy construction of a good multimodal path. Now, some concerns we have are obviously an elevated construction cost and utility locations. And finally, and most important, the concept depends on clear direction as to how to guide people from Randall Road to the new flyover. Intricate design will be required for this roadway geometry and signing to communicate how best to use that turnoff. The displaced left diamond. This is somewhat similar to the DDI that they recently built at Elmhurst Road 990. In the displaced left diamond concept, left turns from northbound Randall and from eastbound I-90 are shifted to new pavement and a new bridge west of Randall Road. The concept is similar to a DDI, but that the through lanes are maintained in their current parallel condition. Essentially, what we're doing is building a third crossing of Randall over I-90 just for the left turns. This is an unusual but not unique concept. They're increasingly popular in suburban and urban areas throughout the country. Another version of what you see here can be built on the east side of Randall Road, But for reasons I won't go into, I'll leave to my traffic friends, the concept as you see it here performs somewhat better from an operations standpoint. The displaced left diamond also received a very high score. This conversion to two-phase signals, go back please one slide again. With both the westbound and eastbound I-90 ramp interchanges basically being converted to two-phase signals, or three-phase at most, provides a significant improvement to mobility by combining the left turn movements rather than having them go one at a time. Thank you. The new structure carrying the displaced left turn can be built offset from the existing structure to minimize interruptions. Concerns would include utility relocations and the relatively complex intersection which is needed for those displaced lefts to function efficiently and safely. The next concept is the hamburger. Believe it or not, this is a thing that has been built in a few places in the country. If you want to know where they are, I'll be happy to share those locations with you after the meeting. What we are trying to do with the hamburger is to eliminate left turns by making every movement basically a right turn, kind of like a glorified oversized roundabout. This concept does not require many traffic signals, and at least theoretically should operate as free flow. However, what we found is that it received the lowest score of any interchange build concept. Traffic analysis showed that we only got minor improvement along Randall Road, which was more than offset by concerns about safety, constructability, and cost. Simply put, there's just too much traffic here for it to be reconfigured as a roundabout. Other concerns include the fact that we still have queuing on the ramps, especially on that westbound 90 exit. Substantial potential utility conflicts, safety issues due to the free flow movements, and high construction costs. The next concept is an echelon interchange. We already introduced the idea of an echelon at Alft. We tried one at I-90 as well. Now, as noted previously, the echelon is a split level intersection. In this case, we would take southbound Randall on a separate bridge over northbound Randall and over I-90. So the access to and from southbound Randall would be at a different level from the access to northbound Randall. That means that all the traffic signals would be two-phase signals. We've gone to some detail to talk about how we like two-phase signals over the 3 or 4-phase signals we have now. Access to and from northbound Randall, as noted, would remain at grade. We talked about the need to reduce conflicting left turns, and this most certainly does that. This concept received the highest traffic score of anything we developed because of the dramatic improvement in operations and safety that it provides along Randall Road. However, it has substantial constructability and bridge design concerns. The structures would be complicated. You have the issue with the ComEd utility line south of Randall Road, which would need, or south of I-90, which would need to be adjusted. And it results in the end in an overall score which is lower than the displaced left diamond and the flyover. The roundabouts concept includes through lanes for Randall Road, which are grade separated over roundabouts at Point Boulevard and Auto Mall Drive, which would only serve local traffic. So there'd be 2 lanes in each direction on Randall for just the Randall Road traffic, and all local access would be via the roundabouts and via frontage roads next to the express lanes. The roundabouts would only handle local traffic, which we've determined would allow them to function very efficiently. Access to I-90 from the north would be via local lanes. The roundabouts concept ideally would be connected with the parklow or the flyover to make it function efficiently. This concept also received the highest traffic rating, but many concerns in other areas led for it to result in one of the lowest overall scores. There are many concerns about this potential concept, which include that right-of-way would be needed on one and possibly both sides of Randall Road north of I-90, extensive utility conflicts, complicated construction phasing, a difficulty in providing for pedestrian access, noise concerns, high construction costs, and 2 new multi-lane roundabouts in close proximity. Not that a roundabout is that exotic of a concept anymore, but 2 multi-lanes in close proximity are a little more complicated. Now, this is an example of the approach that the design team took. We tried to focus on a specific issue and develop the thing that would best address that issue. Roundabouts concept is trying to address traffic flow, and it does that, but it also has all these other impacts, which our evaluation process helped us to understand made it less desirable than it would be if we were only looking at traffic. So summing up all the scores, of the 9 concepts we've just gone over, the displaced left diamond, the flyover, the echelon, and the single point urban interchange were the ones that scored more highly. Lower down in our rankings were the Parklow, the existing diamond interchange, the roundabouts concept, and the no build, with the lowest score going to the hamburger. As noted previously, these scores don't include public input. Please be sure to rate all of these concepts 0 to 4 based on how well you feel it meets the needs of the project. We don't know at this point where the cutoff will be on whether we retain or eliminate a concept. Now, you may notice that a DDI, like what was just built at Elmhurst Road, is not on this list. Several of you in 2020 mentioned it, and we certainly gave it a look. The reason you don't see it here is because the concept was eliminated as part of the fatal flaws analysis. To be honest with you, I was kind of surprised that that happened. You can see an explanation for why it was called fatally flawed in our fatal flaws documentation on the project website, or you can ask us about it in the traffic and geometry breakout session after this presentation. That concludes the presentation of the interchange improvement concepts. Let's move on to the north end. Randall Road has 2 northbound and southbound through lanes in each direction, except for a short segment of 3 northbound lanes from I-90 to Auto Mall Drive. Turn lanes are provided for most of the turning movements off of Randall Road. Like everywhere else in the corridor, pedestrian accommodations are limited or non-existent. This segment has frequent traffic signals at the south end, which contribute to congestion in this area. Backups caused by these intersections can cause backups thousands of feet long in this segment. We've certainly seen backups caused by I-90 congestion or Point Boulevard congestion extending all the way to Carrington and beyond. The ADT for this segment is 45,000 vehicles per day. Again, a very high volume. Our approach to this segment was somewhat limited due to the physical constraints. We obviously have a very tight right-of-way line on the east side, which we're doing our utmost to maintain. We're seeking to increase the capacity of this segment while still maintaining that ability to tie into the various interchange concepts. So a lot of the focus for improvement here involves things we're trying to do at the interchange and things that are being considered now at Illinois 72. We also looked very hard at ways to mitigate impacts to the residential community to the east, to maintain or improve the quality of business access, and to provide space for possible multimodal improvements within and especially across the corridor. The proposed improvements for the north end segment include a 6-lane cross section and an idea involving a grade separation at Point Boulevard. The roundabouts and express lanes concept in the interchange segment, which I've already previously gone over, applies to this segment as well, with a potential bridge over Auto Mall Drive as part of the design. The no build concept is, as always, a possibility, as most of the issues in the segment are caused at its north and south ends. As noted previously, some features of these concepts may not be visible in the slide. Please download the exhibits, give it a closer look, and come back and see us with any questions you might have. The 6 lanes concept that would simply add a northbound and a southbound continuous lane to the roadway between Point Boulevard and Carrington Drive, where it would probably tie into planned improvements at Illinois 72. A new signal will be installed at Technology Drive in this concept, and the signal at Northwest Parkway will be replaced. A signal installed by others is expected for the intersection with Carrington. This concept offers significant improvement to the no-build concept. It improves southbound performance, particularly during the morning peak period. Mobility through the corridor is improved. However, safety benefits are somewhat limited in a section of the corridor which does have a high frequency of crashes. It is believed that additional drainage detention will be needed to handle the runoff created by additional pavement. Some of the benefits this concept offers is that it does reduce average delay. It does improve access to the business community by providing a signal at Technology Drive. During construction activities, existing lane widths will be reduced and shifted with minimal impact to existing traffic flow. Let me go real quick back to that point about Technology Drive. One of the nice things about the corridor, and you can learn more about this if you go to the safety and structures breakout presentation, is the fact that while rear end crashes are a big issue in the corridor, turning movement and angle crashes generally are not. And the reason that is because most of the intersections in the corridor have what they call protected only phasing. That means you can only turn left when you've got a green arrow. This does create more delays for those movements, but it provides a much safer environment for the driver because you have fewer of those situations where left turn traffic is crossing the path of through traffic. Technology Drive is the only traffic signal, is the only intersection in this corridor which doesn't have that phasing. So implementation of that phasing gives us the opportunity to improve one of the rare crossing movement crash issues we have and still provide that additional access. I do see a question about access from Point Boulevard to McLean. I'm just about to go into that. And that's this concept here. The concept is a grade separated intersection. What we considered in this concept is that idea of trying to simplify the number of intersections by reducing that access at Point Boulevard and taking it up and over Randall. What this does is it moves traffic from Point to Auto Mall Drive. The existing intersection at Auto Mall is very large and somewhat underutilized. This concept includes the widening of Randall Road, which is already discussed, along with a new traffic signal at Technology. The idea here was to eliminate those left turns onto and off of Point Boulevard by moving them to the large and underutilized intersection with Auto Mall. The concept does provide an improvement in intersection spacing. However, it doesn't end up making much of a difference in traffic flow because we still have the proximity of the Auto Mall and westbound I-90 ramp intersections. As a result, it didn't score highly. Some benefits is that it does have only a minor impact to Randall, that it has minimal impacts to existing drainage, that the geometric modifications do provide a safety improvement, that its right-of-way issues and its environmental issues are relatively minimal. Now, unfortunately, the issues that it has includes a significant amount of right-of-way, some complexity of the bridge structure, a possibility that there will be impacts to the PACE facility east of Randall Road and north of I-90, and also the fact that the relocated Point Boulevard would encroach into a detention area, meaning that we have a drainage issue, which would require some modification and consideration. As I noted, there are relatively limited things we can do with the North End corridor. Most of the things that we can do for improvement are to focus on those two ends of the corridor. But among those things we can do, the 6 lanes throughout concept scored the highest. The Point Boulevard grade separation had a 55 and no build ranked last, which it would obviously because it doesn't do anything to address what we see as our key issue. So this concludes the presentation of North End concepts. That's a lot of stuff. I know it is. I've been working on it for a long time, and it still feels like a lot. I really appreciate everybody who's been paying it good attention, who's been listening to what we've had to say, and has picked up all this information. Like I said, it's a lot. And I want to emphasize that all these sessions will be available via video if you want to go through them again later at your own pace and on your own schedule. You can always email us to follow up with questions after the meeting. Anyway, having given you an introduction to all the concepts under consideration, we're now getting ready to send you to the breakout sessions to talk to and ask questions of our subject matter experts. The breakout sessions, again, are grouped by traffic operations, noise and other environmental considerations, and design, structures, and safety. You can enter and exit as many of the sessions as you like. I will remain in the lobby to field general questions and to take any calls that may come in from those of you not viewing this on Zoom.
Traffic's here, Matt, so I think you can get going.
Thank you very much. Structures and safety, you're back?
Yep, we're back.
And environmental?
We're back.
All right. Any major takeaways from the breakout rooms? Let's cover that real quick. Ryan, let's go to you first.
No, I wouldn't say so. I think one question that came up a few times was what does CNE04 mean? So CNE was just our common noise environment. So we described that a little bit, but no other big concerns.
Okay. Paul, what's going on in traffic?
My button. There we go. Gosh. So a few questions. San Filippo, they've got some concerns. They've got quite a bit of employees that go in and out of their facility, as we knew. But they've got us some firm numbers that they got to us, so that was very good. Some talk, continued questions about down at McLean and the frontage roads down there. But probably the one question that's kind of hanging out there was how were the weighting of the items determined?
Okay. As far as the weighting is concerned, one of the things that we do is, we came up with this list of criteria. We came a list, and these were things that we either saw from the data, learned from coordination as to what things were important, what things people were worried about. And we took this list and then we compared the items on that list to what was in the purpose and need statement. And something that was of more importance in the purpose and need statement received a higher weighting than something that was not, simply put. That doesn't mean that, traffic, or, for example, safety had, if I recall correctly, Katie, a double weight and traffic was quintuple weighted. That doesn't mean that we don't think that traffic is 2.5 times as important as safety. What it meant is that we knew that safety was wrapped up in traffic as kind of a correlated issue, but that something that had an independent effect on safety still received, that importance. The fact that we said that Advocate Sherman Hospital is single weighted doesn't mean that we don't care about the hospital. It means, again, that its issues are kind of intertwined with those of other subjects. But the video that we recorded, which walks us through the weighting process, will answer some of those questions. But the shorter answer is, the more it involved purpose and need, the higher its weight. Katie, how about structures and safety?
Yeah, we had a few questions about construction timing and phasing that we went over again. I believe you mentioned in your initial program to schedule, so we're still in this early Pell phase, still 5 to 10 years or so out of construction. Some questions related to that. I think a few came in right towards the tail end when we were closing down. So if anyone, we missed your questions, feel free, please fill out the survey or contact us through the website. We'll get those answered for you.
Right. One question that came out about drainage is, we've talked a little bit about where drainage analysis lies in our current assessment of the project. Specific drainage capacity isn't yet, we're not yet to the point where we're, say, sizing a storm sewer. We know, that we're always on top of whatever, however they measure the intensity of storms. We get the impression that storms are becoming more intense, and the capacity for drainage conveyance is something that will be considered in a more specific aspect of the project as we get closer to that actual design, kind of what Katie was referring to. Why don't I go ahead and go through these remaining slides, and then we'll be hanging out a little bit afterward if there are any lingering questions. As the slide indicates, we do want to hear from you. You've been through this whole thing for 90 minutes. You've listened to all we've had to say and everything we've had to impart. I want to encourage those of you who haven't done so yet to complete our project survey. There are two ways that you can complete it. You can either type the address you see here for surveymonkey.com, or go to the project website, or you can download and print a PDF copy of it and mail it, or email it. There's a variety of ways, but we want to emphasize that the public input score comes from you. So if you have an opinion on how well or how poorly these different concepts address what you see as the issues here, get that into the survey so that it becomes part of the record. Again, the primary points of contact for the project, you have any general questions, any general concerns that we haven't addressed yet, or if something occurs to you after you've had a chance to watch the videos and kind of digest all the things we've had to say this evening, we want to encourage you to contact Mike Zakozik, who's the KDOT project manager, or email him at the address shown there. You're also welcome to call or email me via the information shown below. I'll now hand the floor back over to KDOT project manager, Mike Zakozik, for some final remarks. And like I said, if you want to stick around afterwards and you have any other questions you'd like us to answer, we've got some time here. We'll go ahead and do that. Mike, to you.
Thanks, Matt. I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us for this virtual public meeting. It's certainly an interesting format during interesting times. Your input will help shape the future of this community and Randall Road at 90. For more information regarding the project or to sign up for all project updates, please visit the website at www.randallover90.com. Thanks for coming tonight.